So, welcome to Great Expectation with Nick and I'm pleased to welcome Anne as a guest today. Anne, how you doing?
I am good, thank you. Good to see you.
And whereabouts are you in the world? The traveller with work?
I am currently in Amman in Jordan.
For the listeners, Anne, before we get into it, tell us a bit about yourself.
Okay, yeah, my name is Anne. I live in Mallorca, but part of my work is that I travel to mainly working in conflict and post-conflict countries. So I tend to work with governments who have been at war or who are in war and who are looking at running their governments in a much better, more sort of equal, open, and transparent way. So yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
Wow, so you are the world diplomat.
Yeah, apparently so.
And also, Anne, you've recently trained to become a counsellor.
I have indeed, yes. I've been working with you and the rest of the team, which has been an amazing experience, and I'm really glad to have finished, I have to say, mainly the assignments, but it was worth it and it was great. Yes, I'm really glad to have joined such a fabulous team. So yeah, thank you.
So, a major piece of your work, which you mentioned, is conflict resolution. So, you must be an
Hmm.
expert in relationships. Tell us a bit about your background. So, your relationship, married.
All right, okay, no, that's definitely not. It's like, hairdressers have messy hair. I'm one of them. Yeah, so relationship wise, yeah, I mean, I've been married. This is my second marriage. Um, yeah, I was married for a number of years to someone who is still one of my best friends, which I'm really pleased about. It's not always easy, but we have managed to maintain a relationship even 25 years later. We're still really good friends. Um, I have, had, unlike everybody, some short-term, some long-term relationships. Some I really regret, some that I don't regret at all. Some I learned things from, some I learned nothing, others I never do that again. And I'm now married to Tony, who you know, and we've been together for about 15 years. We've been married for 6 years. We were a pre-COVID wedding,
Okay.
and we and two stepchildren who Tony has had full time for probably virtually all of the time that we've been together. And so that's why I was really interested in the blended podcast that you did last week. It rung a lot of bells. I thought it was really, really useful.
You said earlier we've been together a number of years. If a guy had said that, who would probably been, why don't you know exactly the number of years?
Oh, yeah, of course. Those assumptions, Gary, those assumptions.
And Nick and I have been speaking recently about love and respect, two
Mhm.
important aspects within a relationship. We're keen to have you on board because we recognise that it was got us coming from a male perspective predominantly. It was keen to get it from the other
Sure.
side. So, what does in a relationship, romantic relationship, and love and respect
Mhm.
mean to you?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think they both mean different things to different people. And I think, like everything, different people will have what love means to them and what is important in love to them. And in the same, the same with respect. But I mean, for me, love is about and let's be realistic. That first time you meet somebody and you have that whole love thing going on where you just want to spend every single minute of your time with them, you want to do everything with them, you want to know everything about them. It's amazing and it's wonderful. And yeah, it's normal that we miss that when that goes because it does go, with the best will in the world. I mean, I have parents who were married for 60 years and were probably as happy as the day that my dad passed away. He was first to leave than they were when they met. I mean, they were an amazingly happy, happy couple. But boy, did they have their moments. Of course they did. But that sort of initial love is incredible and it's fantastic. And sometimes I do think that we crave that when that starts to go. Um, but for me, love is about being with that person who totally has your back, being with that person who is who will challenge you as well as be that one who will always be there for you. And I think that's really important. Sometimes it's like, oh, well, he's just amazing. He finishes my sentences for me. He does for me. He's this, and it's like, he's my soulmate. He's my soulmate. I remember reading a quote from Dr. Wayne
Yeah.
Dyer, who said, exactly the same thing. We hear so many things about love. And, I hear people say he's my soulmate because he's my other half, because he does exactly the same as me. She likes the same things as me. We talk about the same things. She finishes my sentences. And he said, that's like what if you're both like that in a relationship, one of you is redundant because it's like you're both
Amen.
just exactly the
Yeah.
same. And it's like I don't want somebody who is the same as me, but it's somebody who treats me equally, who we like the same things, we enjoy the same things, but also that we have our separate lives and we have our things that are of interest to one that is may not be of an interest to another. That works, and that is okay. um I think respect is, again, everybody, and I spend my time, most of my time in work dealing with this. It's everybody deserves respect, and in a relationship, the person that you are with should respect you, obviously. But for me, the biggest thing is, and I think sometimes it's forgotten and is sometimes lacking, is about respecting yourself.
Yes.
And often I think people go into relationships and it's all about, respecting the other person, and they forget that actually they also deserve respect from themselves.
Yeah.
That line I'll often have, people have said it to me, I will say to them, yeah, but would you allow somebody, would you allow like me to treat you like that? Would you allow, what would you say if somebody was treating me in that way with zero respect? And no, I wouldn't have that. You're doing that to yourself.
Yeah.
So I think respect is really, really important, but I think it's something that I love as well. We have to love ourselves and we have to respect ourselves for any of the relationships that we're in to work well. I think if we don't have that, then it's not going to work as well as it could do. So I hope that answers what you
No,
meant.
it's like the model answer. Yeah, you really put context around it as well. So in your relationship and your marriage,
Mhm.
how do you feel loved by Tony?
Um, that's a good question. Um, oh gosh, I kind of, it's things like he will just do things that I don't expect. And and it's not about gifts, and it's not about money or whatever. It's none of those things. It's about, he will like, he's a fantastic, as Gary, I've said this to you before. Tony is an amazing nurse, and I've had a couple of things in the last few years where I've been really, really poorly. And he's amazing. And so I know that that's one of his real key strengths, which is fantastic, because men often get the hard, oh, they're just like, they've got man flu and all of
Yeah.
that, when, oh no, they never look after me. Well, he does, he's amazing at that. And that's important to me. It's important that he not necessarily puts me first. Going back to your blended family, he has two children, and those children will always be first. And that's one of the reasons why I loved him. And I'm not saying it's easy. It isn't, as you said in your podcast last week. It's difficult at times. But part of the reasons I love him is the fact that he puts his children first, and that relationship that he has with his children, and that they are so important to him. But then that he also does find time without me having to ask. That I don't have to say to him, well, why aren't you spending time with me? He balances it really well. And now the children are older, it's much, much easier. Um, I think it's just that he makes me laugh. And probably that is the thing more than anything that is important to me. Some people, that doesn't matter. Tony, we just makes me laugh continually on a daily basis, wherever I am in the world. He will do or say something that just makes me laugh out loud. So no matter what's going on, no matter how, he will just send me a picture that will make me laugh. So, and that's probably really important for me.
Bro, I want to bring you in because you very much say love is a decision, not a feeling. I'm not saying it's exclusive 100.
Mm.
What's your take?
My take on what Anne said, or
Yeah, it's
yeah, oh gosh, we could be here all day if we're not careful. I think when you talked about, Anne, the love in the beginning, I think that was an interesting point, because that is the feeling of love, isn't it? The butterflies, the excitement that you said. It doesn't last. We wish it did, but it doesn't. as opposed to what I look on when I talk about love in terms of the verb, the doing, the action of loving someone. And I think what you've then been describing about how you feel loved now is very much that doing. Um, Something I picked up on. I'm going to guess your love language or acts of service might be high on your love languages because you said he does things for me. It's not about
Sure.
gifts. It's not about this. It's what he does,
Mm. Mhm.
which made me think, okay, that's probably your language of love, which is always interesting. I had a question for you, Anne, if I may,
Mhm.
um,
Yeah.
because when Gary and I did this, the initial part of this talk, and then I took it to the family over a lunch, and I talked about love and respect, and it is fascinating how it can not just divide people, but cause so much conversation and almost confusion, shall I say, amongst people.
Mm.
Do you think you could? Do you think it's possible to, let's say, to love someone but not respect them in a relationship?
Ooh.
Ooh. Ooh, that's a really good question. Um, I think the people may feel they love somebody and disrespect them. I don't. I find it very hard to understand how you could treat somebody you love badly, and
Mm,
treating someone with disrespect
mm.
is treating them badly. Um, oh, that's a really, really good question.
So let me give you a
I know.
scenario
Yeah, no,
that,
please,
that might,
please.
because the common view was, well, no, they go hand in hand. So when
Yeah.
you ask someone which one's more important, because that was a question that, bro, I think you and I were trying to
Mm.
Yeah.
decipher. And for men, I think respect, certainly for men, respect comes in very highly. And we were wondering, can you love someone and not respect them? And I thought about a situation where, let's say, you're married and your husband is coming home from work and he's just sitting down in front of the TV, cracking open a beer every night, putting the TV on, putting the sport on, and that's all you see him do on a night by night basis. Is it
Mhm.
possible that you still love him? He's still your husband and you love him for who he is, but you don't respect the fact that he's not doing more with himself other than just sitting and watching TV and drinking beer every night? And is that a
Mm.
possible scenario where I could really love that person, but that behavior, I don't respect that behavior in them because I know that they're capable of more, they could be doing more.
Yeah, gosh, that is a really good example. And I know, I've got so many friends who that kind of thing happens. And and yeah, I hear them say, "Oh, I love him, but I just wish that he would do X, Y, Z."
Yes.
And they're not, they don't do, they just come and sit in their pants and watch TV, and
Yeah.
they don't do this and they don't do that and they don't do this. And it's kind of, and I've been guilty of it, so I'm certainly not taking the higher ground on this. Um, and my answer is always, well, yeah, but you let them. So where's the respect for yourself if you're allowing them
Ooh.
to do something which really, really upsets you or
Mhm,
really annoys you?
mhm,
The behavior you allow will continue. And taking aside sort of toxic, abusive relationships was a totally different thing altogether. And I have friends who's like, this has been going on now for 10 years, and it's like he's doing exactly the same thing when he comes home, and you allow exactly the same thing to happen, and then you complain that he doesn't do it, but you don't do anything about it.
mhm.
Um, so yeah, I guess in those situations, yeah, of course they drive you insane, and I'm sure I drive Tony insane. I know that for sure, but he still loves me. But I
Mhm.
think respect is kind of, it's finding that difference between respect, isn't it, and just things that they do, because I don't, would I disrespect somebody because he just sat in his pants? Maybe, but it's more like, it's just annoying. We should do something with our evening, or I
Mm.
just wish you clear up your mess before you go off to work, or whatever that thing may be. Um, but yeah, but I think that comes back to, do they respect you if they're doing that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Because if it's something that was important to you,
Yeah.
then that they potentially are showing a lack of respect to you,
Yeah.
unless we were to dig deeper and find out what is it that's stopping them from doing something different if they know it's
Yeah,
upsetting.
exactly. Exactly.
But no, I think
Sure.
that was a really interesting answer, and it made me then think: is there a difference between respecting someone and not respecting parts of that someone? Because when you talk about
Yeah, for
respecting them,
sure.
I think that's a general behavior in how you're respectful towards them, but maybe there
Yeah.
are things about them that you don't respect.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And also this thing that we, sometimes this expectation, I mean, like, again, I've done it and I've said to friends who do, well, if you spoke to him about it, well, no, he should just know.
Yeah.
Well, you've allowed
Oh,
it to
and
go
you've
on for the
just
last 5 years. Maybe he kind of thinks it's
you've just
okay,
given the most classic line, and that applies to everything, doesn't it? I have colleagues at work who grumble because maybe it's half term and they've left their partners in charge of the children, and they've grumbled because they've had to leave a to-do list of all the things that they want their partner to do for their child that day.
Yes,
And I'm like, but if you've told them, at least they're going to do it. Well, they should know. I shouldn't have to write a list. I shouldn't have to tell them. And so that's
drives
we are
me
expected to
crazy.
know.
I mean, it happens in every part of life. Doesn't have it in work. Everyone's like, well, it's also bad. It's also bad. Have you spoken to anyone about it? Well, no, because they should know if
Yeah. It's like, we're not mind readers.
Don't always know. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think, if you've told us 20 times, maybe that's one too many, and I get that.
Stay with this, Anne, as a woman.
Yeah.
Which do you value more, if you do? Love or respect? The reason I'm asking is because there's a belief that women need love more than respect. Men value respect more than love. I expect love. A man would say, I want, I need, I expect respect.
Interesting. Again, I think it's probably a bit of and I'm staying on the fence a little bit here again. I guess it's a kind of it's a difficult thing. It's different for different people. I need respect more than I need love. And if we're talking about romantic love, I mean, I think we all need love. I need love from my family. I need love from people around me. I like to give love. But for me, on a day-to-day basis, I really don't like disrespect. For me, it's a real game changer, whether it be with friends, with colleagues, with whoever. So for me personally, respect is more important.
Is because I would say, obviously, I've known you for a few years now. You've got strong masculinity, and bro, you know that book. What's it called?
Which one? There's so many. The Way of the Superior Man?
Yeah, we talked about the masculinity.
With the masculine and feminine energies?
Yeah. And I would say, Anne, your masculinity outweighs your femininity. I'm not saying you're not feminine. And because of that, I'm then thinking, linking that to, that's why you value respect more than the need to be loved in a romantic relationship.
Yeah.
Because speaking as a man, not every man is going to have overflowing masculinities, because some men have got more femininity, because we know it's not gender specific. However, for the majority of men, we would say we need respect. So that it's a classic, but I say it many times because it's true. The way to get to a guy to put him down is to disrespect him. And you could start a fight. You get it in speech like that. Oh, he's just disrespected you. Whereas if you said to a guy, oh, I don't love you, it may hurt him, It's not going to bring us down. And in a relationship, sometimes a woman knows, I can put you down in this area, which basically means I can disrespect you in that area. And I know that's going to hurt you more than me saying, I don't love you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I can totally get that. Yeah.
When will Tony, if he does, feel disrespected by you?
I think one of the things I'm very much aware of is, one, I spend a lot of time on my own by nature of what I do. I come to work and I'm on my own a lot. So and I always have been very independent as a child. As you know, I was very independent. I've never needed to have somebody else for me to be able to exist. And I do a very, very difficult job, and I get on with it and do it in very difficult places, often alone. So sometimes I have to be little bit careful, and I'm very much aware of it, because I know I don't want to make him feel inadequate. So there are things, he knows I can run a house on my own. I can run a business on my own. Because I have done that, and I do it very well. But that doesn't mean to say that he is less important than me, or that, even if I'm the major breadwinner, or I'm the one who's doing the really fascinating, amazing work, that's fine, but if I'm in a group, I always want to make sure that Tony feels that he is as important, and what he does is as important in our relationship and in making our relationship work. Because I think, so as you know, we own a bar. I would try, and the bar is his, in the sense that he does that much better than me. And whilst they're a part of it, we work together, and maybe it wouldn't run as well without me there. I don't know. It did long enough before I came along. But other people are very quick to say, oh, well, it's Anne that's done this and Anne that's done. So I'm very much say, actually, no. Tony is the front of the bar, and people come to the bar because of him, and he's a great host, and he's all of these really good things because that's his kind of territory, as it were. And I think he would feel disrespected if if I don't tell him things or I don't keep him informed, or I think I want to make sure he knows that he matters. I think that is something for him. He feels disrespected if he didn't think he mattered, which could be quite easy given the life that we lead. So it's very important for me that he feels he matters, because I think he would feel I had no respect for him. And his children are the other one. His children, as you know, are extremely important to me. And, I feel that I couldn't be a closer stepmother to them and then wouldn't be as close to me. I totally love them and I adore them. But I think if I disrespected his children, then that would be a huge thing for him, I think, more than anything, because they are so important to him. So yeah, it's a really good question, and I've got to be honest, not one that I've really thought about. But yeah, they're the things that sort of come into my mind as what would be disrespectful.
I was thinking as you're speaking, I mean, you've got huge amounts of emotional intelligence and emotional awareness. So I can imagine you thinking ahead and thinking, right, making sure that Tony knows that this is his territory and this is his and these fronts.
Yeah.
But for many, they don't have that capacity or think that ahead. And it could be, especially today, whereby many women are earning as much as men, are independent and will possibly not need a man or depend on a man as you would 20, 30 years ago. So has that been a shift for good reason?
Sure.
But for the guy or as guys, we could feel challenged by that, threatened, and think, well, she doesn't really need me. So if we're not acknowledged in certain areas, then we don't feel respected. She doesn't really need me. I'm going to stop showing you that I love you. Or that's how it's going to be interpreted consciously.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I think, I'm probably going to get trolled to death for this now. But I do feel that men have a lot to put up with now. The constant, and you know how I feel about this, the constant man bashing drives me crazy. The constant, like, all men are this, all men are that, men don't do this, men don't do that, typical man. I heard it yesterday. Oh, so a man makes a statement and suddenly it's right. And somebody else saying, oh, yeah, well, oh, typical, that's what a man would say, isn't it? And just this constant, man bashing, like, all men are bad. All men are not bad. I know some pretty awful women who I would certainly not want in my life. So I think it's actually quite a difficult time for men in a lot of ways, because women are very powerful now. And I do think kind of sometimes men have lost where they actually need to be and what they are supposed to be. If they're too kind, then they're soft and wet and wimpy, and they want a real strong man who looks like Jason Momoa. Well, we all like, but but then if they're tough and strong, it's just a typical men. They're trying to overpower me and they're trying to take over my life, and so it's really, really difficult, I think, for men to know where they sit. But also, I think women need to become a lot better at being realistic about what they want. And not putting up with what they don't want because of the respect for themselves, but also not disrespecting all men because they are male, and also passing that on to our children and our daughters and our granddaughters about all men are this, all relationships, as typical, relationships never last. All men are like that once they get married. All men are like, and on and on. And it's just, I think that's, I think we need to be really careful of that, because I think we are in a danger of just disempowering men completely. And that's not equality. That's not what equality is about. And I hear this and I teach this so much. Equality is not about women being better than men. And yet so many women have that idea that it's about, girl power, and it's like, the difference between aggressive and being assertive, there's a huge difference. And less often aggressiveness in women is being applauded, when that's not assertiveness, that's aggressiveness, and there's a huge big difference.
Wow, bro.
I think it's a mic drop moment, and we'll end the podcast right there. I mean, how does anything I say match what you've just said, Anne? You've just summarized the world beautifully. It is I mean, and look, I think Gary, you and I often, when we talk, I think I probably side on female side far more than men's side and some of these arguments, and you'll be on the man side, and we'll have some great debates, because I don't think men have helped themselves at times. Don't get me wrong. But
Yeah.
I would say, number one, we haven't got a clue anymore how we're supposed to show up. And exactly what you said, Anne. Are we supposed to be the nice guy? And then we hear nice guys finish last. There's a book, I don't know if you've heard of it, No More Mr. Nice Guy. It's one of the biggest and most popular books for men. The first time I read it, it caused me a lot of problems. Now I totally get it. But it really is kind of, yeah, this is how we do need to show up as men, but it's not easy. Then we meet the resistance from women when we try and show up as men. And we listen to society telling us how it should be. And it's a minefield for us right now. 100%. Totally agree with what you just said. Yeah.
And Anne, I'd like to ask you this question. I know your situation is different, but you'll be able to speak into it through experience with friends or professionally. And Nick, I know you know all about this. Regards to when families, relationships break up, and they've got children between them, and the guys that want to be there, show up as a dad, are generally the ones that get a hard time and really use the children as a weapon against the partner, the male partner. The guys that do not are semi-interested or disinterested have complete access. There's no argument. It's free access. Like, I'll do anything to make this relationship or to make sure you have a relationship with children. Now, why is that? Do you think the fact that I've seen personally, professionally, men in tears saying, I can't do anymore financially, time-wise, they make it hard for me, they change the times, they really are just beating me up. And I say, it's because they know you care. They know you care about that child, and they could just abuse that love you have for the child or the children to express their hurt and anger towards you. Now, we know that relationships often, when they break down, can be messy and at times ugly. But as a guy, it hurts me when these guys who are showing up, because there's so many guys out there who don't care, who do not show up, and they get such a hard time.
Yeah, I think I mean it's a real bugbear for me. I think anyone, male or female, who uses their children as a weapon in a relationship, I just have no time for. It's let's forget who are the important ones here. It's the children. That for me is all that matters. And I guess it's really, really difficult when a relationship ends, especially if it's not you that wanted it to end. Um, but I think, and I've got some friends who have handled it very well, some friends who have not. I don't know. I've not been in that position, so I don't know how I would handle it. So certainly not for me to say how it should be done. But I know some friends who've been treated very, very badly by their partner, but their most important thing, the key issue for them is that their children are happy. So they've never said a word about what the dad did or what the mum did. And it's just about, okay, let's make this work for the children. I know a number of men who have gone through hell and are still going through hell and had that carrot of their child and the visitation rights to their child dangled over them. And I think it's disgusting. I know that the courts are becoming much more aware of this, that there is a lot more done now to be able to help dads who are in that position. But I think it's the most awful you can do to the child, but also to an individual, to stop them seeing their children unless there is a genuine reason why they should not see that child. And we know there are cases where there is genuine reason why. If there's, unless there's a genuine reason why the child should not see them, then the child, they should be allowed access to their kids. Just for the child and just for the child's future, but also, it creates so much anger and pain that child will pick up in that home. If there is that constant bickering, the phone calls, the nastiness on the phone, the text messages, the child will pick that up. You pick up an atmosphere when you walk into a room as an adult. Children are even better at that than we are. If there is something off, if there are awful things being said. And I don't get why. I do not understand. And it's one thing where I think so many people let themselves down, but most of all let their children down. because the child will always want to see their mum or their dad, no matter how difficult they are, no matter how bad they've been, no matter what happens. The child wants to see their parent. They want a relationship with their parent. It will come a time maybe where they find out for themselves, actually, no, that's not what I want. And I don't like, I now understand why my mum left my dad, or I now understand why my dad left my mum, whatever that may be. But that's for the child to find in their own time. What you want is for your child to be happy and well adjusted. And, you don't get that by stopping a parent from seeing their kid. So it's really, it really upsets me, really hurts me with the people that I've seen have gone through that on both sides.
Yeah. And speaking about love or respect, neither love or respect is being displayed in that behaviour.
No.
No. And not to the child either.
No, not at all.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's still something I don't think I've ever really got my head around. I think, and bro, what you were saying, I think it's probably some sort of insecurity that causes that behavior, that fear that if I allow my kids full access to the other person, will they favor them? Will they want to go off and live with them? I think there's something in there that is it's something in ourselves that it's our protection mechanism. We know it's our weapon. And traditionally, I think it's probably been a weapon for women when men have used finance as a weapon because they traditionally were the breadwinner. Women had the children and they used that as the weapon. And those are the two things you typically have the biggest fights over. But also, I guess there's that insecurity of what if the kids favor them, not me, and then I'll be on my own. And that's a really scary thought when your whole world is imploding around your marriage breaking up, etc. as well.
Yeah. And especially if there's somebody else involved, how I guess how difficult it must be to send your child off knowing that your child's going to be with another woman for the day.
Yes.
Or another woman for the weekend, or another woman who's not going to have all of the hassles that you have with shortage of money and not being able to do fun things. And then the dad takes them off with the new girlfriend and off they go and they have loads of fun all weekend and it's all great and wonderful. And we go to the cinema and I get snacks and I get this, and you're at home literally watching every penny. Because you don't have any money and he's not paying his maintenance and all that sort of thing, and yet you don't want to say anything because you want to keep the kid's relationship with the dad. And how difficult must that be? I can't imagine what that must feel like. So of course you're going to be a bit not letting you go because I don't want that other woman with having time with my kids. So I totally get that completely. Must be terrible, really, really hard.
And would you say that there's a lack of education? We've spoken previously about schools and the life skills that are not taught, and we not really spoke at school educated about relationships. Yet it's one of the things we all look for. It's a life commitment. Well, that's what we ideally want it to be. But apart from the biological, in terms of how we make babies, we're not talking about the emotions behind it, what's the principles, the values. It really appears to be lacking. And we then enter into relationships with this lack of knowledge, expecting it to be beautiful.
Just like the movies.
Sure.
Yeah,
exactly.
And we have to go back. Great expectations, but not equipped for it.
Yeah. But don't you think it's like that across with it's not just love relationships? I don't think they're taught with regards to relationships, full stop.
Exactly.
They're not taught great communication skills. They're not taught about trust. They're not taught about my thing is assumptions, and assumptions that we make about people, that we make about life, that we make about we make so many assumptions about things and live our lives based on assumptions. They're not taught, and now you look at social media, they're not taught about how manipulative, for example, media can be. They're just, the relationships, they're just not taught anything about, or very rarely. I mean, I know it's done in some schools, and I know it's really important in a lot of schools, which is amazing. But they're not taught any of those things, or certainly not to any great extent. And I just think if there could be, and as I said, I know of one school that does it and does it quite well, and I've done some work with them, but that is absolutely all those things, just those life skills. Money is becoming much more on the agenda now, teaching kids how to manage money well, which, you know, is great. It's
Yeah.
fantastic. And I wish they'd have had it when I was young. And I'm sure my bank manager does as well. But, you know, just that money management. So all those sort of life things are really, really important, you know, and social media and about, you know, what to believe and what not to believe and things to be careful of. And there's so much that I just think we miss a really, you know, really miss it in schools. And I think if we could do more of that in school, the world would be a better place, because all
Yes.
of those skills you don't just need in relationships with regards to love relationships. You need them with family, you need them with friends, you need them in the workplace. And yet we don't do that. And
That's
I
so
wish we did.
true. And we need them with ourselves. And
Yes.
and bro, when you were talking, and it made me think, and you'll see this for so many couples you've worked with, we can teach couples all the skills around relationships. If they haven't got control of their own nervous system, if they're not in good relationship with themselves and able to understand what their own personal triggers are, those tools are almost useless, because they're ending up getting triggered and going back to their standard reactions. So until they
Absolutely.
learn to rewrite their own program,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that's why a lot of our teachings, or probably a lot of relationship counseling, isn't as effective as it could be, because so much it has to be on the self. And if we could teach
Yeah.
children better
Yeah.
regulation of
Very
self,
much.
we'd probably see
Yeah.
a world of difference as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
completely agree. And I'm finding now is trend the right word? Yeah, the pattern that I'm noticing is that couple counseling is becoming more individual counseling.
Exactly.
Both of the
Yes.
couple separately,
Yeah.
because they're
Yeah.
recognizing that, you know, I need to work on this, but I need to work on this. And until I work on this individually, the relationship or any other relationship is not going to is not going to improve.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
definitely
Yeah.
what I'm noticing over the last 18 months.
Exactly that. And
Yeah.
then when you've done that,
Absolutely.
then you can go and at the end of all of that, focus on some basic relationship stuff.
Yeah.
But that
Sure.
foundation is, I think now, yeah, individual work is probably the what builds a solid foundation.
One more topic. A lot of topics still stay with love and respect scenario. So the woman says,
Mhm.
without love, I will not respect him. So she reacts. And
Mhm.
he's saying, without respect, I will not love her. So she reacts.
Mm.
Where do we go from there?
I think it's not just about that, is it? And that's, you know, that's,
But
if
sometimes
only
it
it was
is. It
that
could
easy.
be, I'll do it when they do it.
Yeah, exactly. But then doesn't that come back to those other things? You
Mm.
know, that communication and those assumptions and you know, it's, you can't make somebody love you. You can't make somebody respect you. And I think, you know, again, it's looking at yourself. So where is the respect in me? Where is the love in me? I think it comes back to that, as we were literally just saying about that individual stuff. Um, because, you know, I suspect if it's that cut and dry to somebody about their relationship, there's a lot, you know, as you know much better than I do, there's a lot more of the stuff going on. They're not communicating.
Yeah.
I want, you know, I don't care about the love. I want the respect. It's like, no, you need both. You know, you need, and no matter what your key trigger is and what is most important to you, as much as respect is important to me, I can't be in a relationship just because they respect me. I
Yes.
have to have love as well, but respect is more is if I haven't got respect, just because I love someone, I won't stay there if I feel that that person does not respect me. And I think, you know, so I think there's a lot of other stuff there. Um,
And as you both said, and I'm in complete agreement, it all goes back down to self-esteem, self-worth, self-image.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I heard yeah, I'm sure you've heard this quote. I've never heard it before. I think it's Cooney where it comes from, and it was on something I was listening to on the radio the other day, and it says, "I'm not what I think I am. I'm not what you think I am. I am what I think you think I am."
Yes. Yeah.
It's
So
like, wow, that's just like
yeah.
so much of that,
Hey,
isn't there?
yeah.
About, again, that is no lack of communication. He thinks this, she thinks that. Actually, they don't think that. But you've never had the discussion to find out what it is they do actually think.
Yeah.
So true.
Yeah.
So, and you've shared a lot of knowledge, you've shared your personal experience, given us insight, wisdom, and things to think about. It's been very thought-provoking. What would be your, to summarize your parting message on the view of love and respect and relationship, what would be the message you'll leave with the listeners?
Yeah, I think, love is wonderful. Great relationship is fantastic. I think you have to be realistic. The best relationships in the world have difficult times. But any of your relationships, whether it's a love relationship, a work relationship, whatever it is, for me, you need to love yourself. You need to respect yourself before you're in, to have any good relationships, you need all of those. And you need to communicate and don't assume. Yeah. But communication, I think, is just one of the best skills in anything that we do. For sure. Yeah.
Now, just speaking out of the late Whitney Houston song came to my mind, the greatest love of all, and it is to love.
Yes.
So you can leave us with a song. And thank you very much. Yeah, the timing was right. You spoke very wisely to this topic, as I mentioned before, and you've got so much passion about it, and you don't take sides. You speak from a position of a human being and what a human being needs. And as you said, everybody needs love and respect, and it starts with yourself. So thank you so much. If any of you want to work more on yourself as an individual or a couple, please reach out to the Gap Counselling. And remember, love starts and respect starts with you.